Hey everybody, it's Mr. Haskell, and I'm back with more things that you should know by being alive. And today I just want to take some time and talk about the Tulsa Race Massacre, because this just wasn't a riot. This was an attack. It was a war zone in one of the wealthiest black communities in American history. And for decades, our country tried to hide it, to try to erase it. So let's look first at what was Black Wall Street. So in the early 20th century, Greenwood is a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it became known as Black Wall Street. And the reason why is because it was one of the most prosperous black communities in America. It was built by formerly enslaved people and their descendants. And Greenwood had, dozens of black-owned businesses, a movie theater, doctors, lawyers, real estate agents, schools, churches. And in a country that was built on segregation, Greenwood thrived as a self-sufficient, wealth-building community. But the success of the community didn't shield them from racism. And on May 31st, 1921, everything changes. Now, the spark that leads to the massacre is, it all starts with a 19-year-old black man, a shoe shiner named Dick Rowland. And he rode an elevator with a 17-year-old white girl named Sarah Page. Now, we don't know what happened in the elevator, what the incident was. Some will say that he tripped, some say that she screamed, but by that afternoon, Rowland was accused of assault and he was arrested. Local papers, they ran inflammatory headlines. White mobs gather at the courthouse. They're demanding vigilante justice. And when a group of armed black veterans showed up to protect Rowland, things begin to escalate. Shots are fired. Chaos breaks out. And by morning, you have a white mob descending on Greenwood. And what happens next was not a riot. This is the massacre. White Tulsans, including law enforcement, and even some National Guard units, begin looting and burning and destroying over 35 square blocks of Black Tulsa. They burned homes, they burned businesses and churches, they even burned a hospital. And eyewitnesses described aircraft dropping incendiaries. That's right, they were dropping bombs on American citizens. And by the time the fires stopped, over 1,200 homes were destroyed. Hundreds of black residents were killed or injured. Thousands were left homeless. No white perpetrators were ever charged. So now what? This is when the silence begins. So for decades, the Tulsa Race Massacre is left out of textbooks, newspapers, even local memory. Victims receive no compensation whatsoever. Insurance companies denied claims. Survivors were housed in internment-style camps. The sight of mass graves was ignored. And it wasn't until the late 1990s and early 2000s that serious investigations began. In 2021, 100 years later, the United States formally acknowledged the massacre. And some survivors, over 100 years old, finally had the chance to testify before Congress. But there's still no justice. There's no reparations. And many Americans still haven't heard this story. Now, I try to, in history, why this matters. The Tulsa Race Massacre shows us what racism can do when it's backed by power, when it's backed by silence, when it's backed by fear. And it's a reminder that black success has always been met with resistance, and that erasing history is one of the tools used to maintain inequality. But remembering it is a form of justice. And then telling the truth, that's how we make sure this never gets buried again. If you've learned something today, if this is new to you, if it added something to your vast memory, like, share, follow me, for more things that you should know by being alive. Because real history includes everything, and even the parts that they try to hide. Thanks for watching.